Here's my prayer for the night. I'm not gonna say purpose. I'm gonna say prayer for the night, because I think when you look at the culture of today, half of the room calls this the holiday season, and the other half calls it the flu season. There's two very different paradigms that happen, and my prayer tonight is the paradigm shifts. My prayer tonight is that as we look into the next season, that this continues to be a season of fellowship and connection and love and friendship, and it stops being a season of stress and weight gain and being overwhelmed and being sick. Does that make sense? You guys see that very, very polar opposites, right? And when you look at what's coming, it should be a certain thing. Like, I don't know who, we talked about this with a friend of mine, but the concept of Christmas turned into Xmas. Like, so many things just have gotten sideways. So here's my point. As we go in, this should be a very different culture, right? So as we look into this, my hope is that we can be grounded in having a strong immune system. And when you start looking at the next couple months, the question you have to ask yourself is, what things am I doing that support my immune system? And what things am I doing that are suppressing my immune system? Support versus suppress. So that's what we're gonna go over tonight. Cool? All right, first thing is first. Good old germ theory. So if we're gonna understand immune system and we're gonna understand sickness, you gotta understand where this whole thing comes from. Because over the last couple of years, we'll just leave it at that, there's been a very big fear of bugs and germs. And here's what you have to understand. The whole concept of this goes back to 1860 by a guy named Louis Pasteur. He's the guy that developed the germ theory. He's the one that said you should be afraid of germs. Germs make you sick. Be careful of germs. Put loads of hand sanitizer on to be away from germs, right? That's where this started. Here's the problem with his theory is that if the germ was the case, then why is it if you took a kid and he was sick and he goes into a classroom and he starts sneezing on everybody, the problem is that theoretically every single person exposed to the germ should get sick. But you know that that's not the case, right? Some kids don't get sick. What's the missing piece of the puzzle? And if you look and you dig deep enough, Louis actually on his deathbed redacted his whole comment and said, I was wrong. He said the germ theory was not all of what it's made out to be, that there's another piece of the puzzle that we're missing. And that's where the terrain theory comes in. The terrain theory states that the germ is a piece of the puzzle, but what's more important is the health of the host. What's more important is the health of your immune system in your body, right? Because here's the thing is if I'm confident and empowered in my immune system, I don't care what bug you have, right? Because realistically, if you think about during COVID, like I adjusted hundreds of people with no mask and I'm still alive. So like the idea is that I didn't care because I did everything to support my immune system and I was ready. And I think when you look at the holidays, the goal is you want to control what you can. I can't control all the germs and all the bugs that are out there, right? You'd go crazy if you tried doing that. But you can control your immune system. You can do things to strengthen your immune system. And the goal of tonight is to talk about, again, the things that are in balance there. So the whole theory of this terrain theory, how many of you guys remember years ago in, I think it was like Lake Michigan, it was super polluted and it was really, really bad. You guys remember that at all? So what happened was there was a very big, I don't know if it was an oil spill or something, but the water was super polluted. And what they're finding is that all of a sudden, all these fish were really sick, right? These fish were either dying or they were being born with deformities. And the terrain theory here, if you start thinking about this from the terrain theory perspective, if that happened and all these fish are sick and the cause of this sickness was the pollution in the water, the germ theory says that, well, we should go in and we should start vaccinating all the dead fish and we should give all the fish antibiotics, and we should give all the medication to the fish who are sick. Terrain theory says, well, no, go clean up the environment. Does that make sense? Go fix the source of the sickness. Quit trying to just fix the sick like fish. Go back to the cause. There is an old story that was like, a guy once said, hey, instead of trying to continue saving drowning people, go upstream and stop them from falling in. And this is the concept. We have to start thinking that instead of waiting until we get sick and overwhelmed, we just got to be more proactive and make sure we're taking care of our host and using the God-given immune system that you have and strengthen that. Like that's where you want to live in, right? So all this stems back to this concept of holidays versus holiday months. So you guys have seen this on the whiteboards in the back here. Holidays versus holiday months. What do I mean by that? What I mean is there's about 5 holidays that we celebrate in the next 5 months, but we turn this into 5 months of havoc on your health. You look at Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, right? They're days, but what happens is we have parties and we have get-togethers and family gatherings and all these things, and it turns into months of us living unhealthy habits. And this is where we get to New Year's. And what's the number one New Year's resolution?
Lose weight.
Health, right? All this health. I want to get my health back. You wouldn't have to have that be your resolution if we weren't destroying ourselves for all these months leading up to it, right? Yeah. But we get to this point and then we're like, oh man, I got to get it back. And we just how about we just don't do that? How about we just make sure, and again, you can enjoy, we're going to show you tonight, you can enjoy the holidays, but enjoy the holidays. Yeah. Don't make them months of havoc on your body. So 3 of the main things, we're going to go over a couple more, but 3 of the main things tonight. So we have very poor nutrition over the next couple months, right? Increase in stress, physical, chemical, and emotional stressors. And then we have a lack of sleep. We're not sleeping as much. We have a lack of time. This is probably the biggest one I hear from people, right? Is that in this time, we go, I don't have time to do anything. We lose time because we're so busy with stuff. And then the last one is, I say lack of vitamin D. What I mean by that is we get lack of sunshine, which I'm going to talk about that too. We shouldn't have that problem where we live, right? Like if you're living up in Michigan or if you're living somewhere else, that's a problem. But where we live, that should not be an excuse. Like we should squash that one.
Just the heat.
Yeah, well, yeah. And I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit. When you start looking at it, realistically speaking, we lose vitamin D, us Arizonians, we lose vitamin D in the summer because it's so hot we don't go outside. In the winter is when we should actually gain more vitamin D because now everybody's out hiking and out bike riding, right? Like everyone's outside more during the winter time for us because we hibernate in the summer. So this should be the polar opposite effect, right? And when you do all these things not good, and then the holidays kick over, we get a whole bunch of this. By the way, how many of you guys, if you know the answer, because you've been here before, don't say it out loud, but how many of you guys know, how many pounds of fat do you think this is right here?
5, 7, 10.
So this is 5 pounds of fat. Now here's why, I'm going to show you this, and I'm going to circle back to it later, but here's why I talk about this. How many times have you guys worked your tail off to lose weight, and you get on the scale, and it says you lost 5 pounds, and you were sad about it? And you were said, man, it should be more. If you look at this, if I showed you this is what you took off your body, would that change your perspective? A lot of what we're going to see tonight is a perspective shift, right? You start looking at this, like this right here is a lot good for you if you lost 5 pounds. Like this is a lot of fat that you took off your body. But a lot of what we got to understand is that there's a perspective shift as we go, okay? So like we don't want to put this on our bodies over the next couple of months. We want to work on taking it off our bodies. Okay, as I close this part out, in the Bible, one of my favorite verses for this next season is Romans 12:2. Romans 12:2 says, don't be conformed by the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, right? So that as we go into all the changes that you're going to make, here's what you got to understand. Culturally speaking, we do things very sick right now over the next holiday season. I hope and I pray that we can transform and renew your mind in how we should start walking in confidence in this next season, right? So we stop conforming to what's been happening and we start transforming what we're going to be doing going forward. Amen?
Amen.
Amen. Okay, the louder you speak, the faster I go. So here we go. The gut-immune connection. We have to talk about this. Here's why. Most people don't know that 70% of your immune system is in your gut. So here's the thing. If you want to have a strong immune system over the holiday season, a lot of it begins in your gut. So if we're consuming a lot of gut disruptive stuff, that is a number one thing that will suppress your immune system. If the majority of it is inside here and we're consuming a lot of destructive, inflammatory things, you're constantly going to be suppressing your immune system. So we're going to go over specific stuff that does this, but think about what the typical person does is we consume inflammatory things, sugar, processed foods, right? All these things. We consume that stuff. That suppresses your immune system. So then now that your immune system is suppressed, we get what? Sick. And then you get sick, then you go to the doctor, and then doctor's going to give you antibiotics. What do you think an antibiotic does to your gut?
Kill it.
Completely kills it. So if you now put antibiotic in your gut and you've now destroyed your gut, which is where 70% of your immune system hits, are you going to have a better immune response or a worser immune response? And now the vicious cycle continues. And this is what happens over and over during this next season is we do things that consistently damage and ruin our gut. And this is why our immune system is like so low that anything gets you sick. Any little stress response and you get sick. And then you go back to the doctor and you get more antibiotics and then we do it again. And then we do it again. You guys see what's happening? We got to break out of the hamster wheel and start making a shift, okay? So this is where this starts. So now that we've gone over all that stuff, tips, and this is gonna be all the good stuff now. This is what I was getting excited about. All the good stuff. Tips on how to make these holidays healthy. I don't even know why I have this here. I just skip over all my notes. Here's one thing I really wanted to say. Man, this is good. Like, if you have a notepad and you're gonna write something down, here's what you gotta write down, is that you can't medicate or vaccinate your way out of a bad lifestyle. This is so big, right? You have to understand that there is nothing you can put in your body that's synthetic that can overdo a bad lifestyle. The lifestyle habits that you adopt or don't adopt over this next season are going to be a big deal. I don't care what things that you take in. A lot of times, when I was a kid growing up, I got every flu shot, I got all the NyQuil, I got all the stuff, right? And for us as kids, I was never taught these healthy habits. So for us, this was my prescription to keep living bad because I was like, I don't care if I get sick. I'm gonna down a bottle of Dayquil and I'll be all right. And I'll do it again, right? And you continue to do it again. And we rely on these drugs to allow us to keep having this poor lifestyle. And it just does this vicious cycle. So we have to make sure like you can't outrun a bad lifestyle. That's big. Okay, so first thing we're gonna start off with is nutrition, because this is where I think a lot of people struggle with this time because we all are like inundated with all the good stuff. Let's call it what it is, right? When I go home to my family back home, oh man, it's hard. There's all the childhood favorites that they make and all the loads of sugar and good Lord. So when you start looking at it, this is where we want to start making shifts. And I think when you're looking at your nutrition, there's little things that you can tweak. Like how many of you guys enjoyed what we just fed you 2 seconds ago? Was that good?
Very good.
Would you believe me if I told you that there was nothing in that was bad for you?
Yes.
You're going to be, right? You're going to be the hit of the party when you bring that to your holiday party. And here's the concept is that there are so many really yummy, healthy things that you can make for your family and for, when you have to go somewhere. And it can be delicious and it cannot be bad for you and it cannot damage your gut. And what I'm so proud of my team tonight, they spent so much time putting together a large amount of these recipes for you guys. We're gonna get to a QR code where you're gonna get to scan it and it's all for you. Like you're gonna have the recipe for what you ate tonight is in this recipe thing. So you're gonna have it, it's gonna be all good. So first thing we talk about with nutrition is the indulging that we do. Now this is what's funny. So when I was a kid growing up, I always say, because I grew up like the average person, right? When I was a kid growing up, when you talk about Halloween candy, there wasn't like a piece of candy that you got on Halloween. I had a pillowcase full of candy, right? Like it was a pillowcase full and I would just sit there and down this pillowcase of candy. And when you start looking at yes, there's moderation, but here's the thing, like there's still limits that you want to set for yourself, right? There's still things in that thing that we sent you, or the QR code you're gonna get, a lot of the stuff in there are healthy swaps. So if it comes to certain like candies or certain things, there's the swap so that you can not deprive or not get away from it, but you can still have certain things, but they're gonna be better for you, right? So indulging, you gotta be careful. Whether it's the Halloween candy, what was the other one I had? This was funny. It was that, how many parties do we attend during the holiday season? Is it like a couple parties, or it's like, a lot of us, it's like, you can't get away from it. It's at work, they have all the stuff. You go to church, they have the stuff. Wherever you go, it's just, there's so much of it. So again, a lot of it's just being put in front of your face everywhere you go. So it's easy to indulge without thinking that you're indulging. Does that make sense? So it's maybe you're not sitting in one sitting, taking it all in, but it's almost every single day, wherever you go, it's in front of your face and you're being put in front of it. So like that right there is a big thing. It's how many you are consuming. Here's a good question. We had this up on the board here for you guys. How many calories do you guys think we consume on Christmas Day? 6,000 calories is the average amount of calories. 2,000 is the average person's calorie that they should be on, roughly, right? 2,000. 6,000 is what we take in on Christmas. 6,000 is roughly what we take in on Thanksgiving. So on the holidays, we talk about indulging, this is how many we're taking in. And here's the thing. When you hear guys talk about like, I'm in bulking season, like, I guarantee you on this day, you're not eating a bunch of steak and rice, right? Like, you're eating all kinds of trash all day long. At least, again, my home growing up, we had the massive breakfast. We were snacking all day long, early dinner, so we can have all the desserts. Like, it was just all day long. So you think about the amount that we're eating is just unreal. And I think here's the other thing. When you're consuming processed foods, you're going to be able to consume 10 times more than if you were consuming whole foods. Here's a good analogy. Take a bag of potato chips, right? How many potatoes do you think it takes to make a bag of potato chips?
10.
It's like 5 to 7 potatoes per one bag of potato chips. If I sat you down and gave you 7 baked potatoes, could you eat it in one sitting? Probably not. But if I gave you a bag of potato chips and put on, a show, you would demolish that thing. You see the difference, right? Yeah. When something is processed, you can just consume so much more versus when it's in its whole natural form. So again, kind of watching over this next season, avoiding man-made foods and sticking to more God-made foods is going to be a very good staple when you're looking at your nutritional balance. That right there should be a big difference maker. So, top 5 things that are going to suppress your immune system. Oh, man. Okay, number 1, I will say this all day long. So sugar. Sugar is the number 1 suppressor. So, I got this for you guys. So this right here is a Grande Starbucks cup. So all of the new pumpkin spice whatevers right? All the lattes, the frappuccinos, right? All the pumpkin spice stuff that Starbucks is putting out right now. In a Grande, there is 65 grams of sugar in a Grande, and they're all very similar. I did the math, they're all very similar. But there's about this much sugar in a Grande, you name it, right? Here's what a recent article found. It takes 60 to 70 grams of sugar in your bloodstream to suppress your immune system for up to 5 hours. One drink of this, and you are done for 5 hours. And how many of us, this is our daily thing, right? We go to this every day. And when you go to this, it's not just this, but then you get your sugar candy pop, and you get your bagel, and you get your egg, you get all the other stuff with it. And again, this adds up. This is the Grande. A lot of people out there, they're getting the Ventis because this is definitely not enough sugar, right? So you start looking at this. Then you look at processed foods. So processed foods, the oils in processed foods, the refined oils are rancid and inflammatory. Rancid inflammatory oils damage the gut. They create something called leaky gut. If you've ever heard leaky gut, rancid processed foods create that. If you're looking at packaged foods and you see things like canola oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, all the seed oils that's becoming a lot more popular now. Seed oils are the rancid oils that are causing your nervous system to crash, okay? So processed food, the biggest thing is the seed oils inside that they're using to package that. So definitely avoid that. Then we have refined carbs. So refined carbs is like your bagels, your pastas, all the breads, right? When you look at a refined carb, here's why this is bad. If you consume, I'm just going to use like a white bagel, right? If you bite into a bagel, there's an enzyme in your saliva. It takes 7 seconds for that white bagel to turn into sugar. Your body converts it to sugar within 7 seconds. So this is why if you're a diabetic and you bite into a bagel, your blood sugar goes whoosh. And that's why, is because your body converts white refined carbs into sugar. So now you take your frappahola latte, whatever that is, and then you take your nice little bagel and you consume this, Do you guys see how quickly the sugar increase goes up and how quickly you crash and why you feel so bad? So refined carbohydrates destroy your immune system. Fried foods destroy your immune system. A lot of this is the trans fats that we find in there. Trans fats cause something called dysbiosis. Fancy word for saying leaky gut, right? Goes back to the same thing. When you see dysbiosis, it's an imbalance of the microbiome, imbalance of the bacteria, ultimately leading to gut issues, gut immune system. You're going to see how this all ties back. Gut damaging the immune system. So this is another one. So fried foods is going to be a big one. And the last one, artificial sweeteners. This is the one that's probably the most tricky because this is where they sneak a lot of artificial sweeteners into a lot of things. Right now, I have a lot of conversations with people about electrolytes. And a lot of people go to Costco and they get the liquid IV or what is that? That's it called, right? Is that the one? So there's tons of sucralose or artificial sweeteners in these electrolytes. So you think you're hydrating yourself. What you're really doing is you're damaging yourself because you're giving yourself artificial sweeteners. So what an artificial sweetener does, these are things like sucralose, aspartame. There's another one that I put in here, sucralose, aspartame. So they cause dysbiosis. So artificial sweeteners will cause leaky gut. But a big one that you've really got to be careful about is artificial sweeteners. There's something called the blood-brain barrier, okay? So when God built you, he made you really smart. And he decided to put a barrier that protects your brain from toxins, okay? Well, there are certain things that can pass through that barrier and latch on to nerve tissue in the brain and start damaging nerve tissue in the brain. So whenever you hear of something called a neurotoxin, it's a toxin that damages the nervous system. Artificial sweeteners are neurotoxins. These are the things that can go through the blood-brain barrier, latch on, and damage your brain cells. This is why we don't like artificial sweeteners. We keep them away from our kids, from us. Really, anything that you see, sucralose, aspartame. And the hard part is that if you look at even things like protein powders, you see it in everything. You really got to watch out for these sweeteners. What you would want to see are natural sweeteners. You want to see things like maple syrup, honey, stevia leaf is a better one. Monk fruit is a better one. Like you want whole things that are like plant-based that are from the earth, right? Those are much better sweeteners for your body that your body can metabolize and understand and not react to. Is that helpful? These 5 things, you take these 5 things out of your diet over the next 5 months, you will see a drastic change in your immune response, right? Now the 80-20 rule. That's why I threw this in there. I was testing my team with this actually. When you see, go ahead, yeah.
I just want to say, I did take those out and I have lost 45 pounds.
Oh, come on, girl.
Hey, just that alone.
You guys, did everybody hear that? Paula here took artificial sweeteners out of her diet at a seminar that we did probably a long time ago, right? And she's lost 45 pounds since taking that out of her diet.
No sugar, no processed food, no refined food, no fried food. Healthy.
7 of these, right? No, but again, amen, right? Like, here's the thing. Yeah. So you start thinking, right? Like, you start looking at, when you're looking at getting this stuff off, another way to lose weight and feel better, you eliminate this stuff out of your body, and your body will function and process so much better. Amen, girlfriend.
People ask me, have you lost weight? I said, yeah. How did you do it? I eat healthy.
Amen.
Is that it?
You say, I go to Dr. Mike's seminars. That's what I said.
That's right.
So I'm going to kind of piggyback a little bit on that one, is when you think about the 80-20 rule, when I ask people, what does this mean to you when you hear this? And most people's response is, that means that 20% of the time I get cheat meals. Does that sound right? Right? 20% of the time I get to have my cheat meals. That's not wrong, but the question is, you have to raise your standard on what you call a cheat meal. What is your 20%? The reason I say that is, yes, I indulge in things, but I have a limit. There's a standard I set. So for example, you would never see me in a McDonald's drive-thru ever. I don't care what cheat thing I'm doing. There's a limit. Does that make sense? I know that there's nothing real in anything they have to serve, so that never goes in my body. You think about, the stuff that you ate tonight right here, yes, there's sugar in that, but there's good sugar. So when I want to indulge in something, I indulge in that. because I don't have to feel guilty about it and I'm not damaging myself, but it's a treat and it tastes yummy, right? So like when you start having your 20% cheats, get creative with stuff like that, make that your 20%, and now you're gonna feel so much better, I promise you. So again, this is why we wanna kind of equip you guys with a lot of fun things to change over into, so that way you don't feel like, oh, well, I guess if I'm gonna be healthy, this is just gonna suck for the next 5 months. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be that way. It can be good, but we gotta equip you with the right stuff, so that way you're like, oh no, make me a pecan bar and I'm gonna be just fine. You know what I mean? So changing your standard on what you define as your 20% is a big difference maker. Does that make sense? Yep. Okay. Then, this is the idle man. If there's one thing I think that we do well, which there's not a lot of it, but if there's one thing we do well, it's how do we get your kids to get involved and eat the things that you eat? How to get your family on board is a question I get a lot. And the number one thing is you get them involved, right? Like when we started getting and eating all this fun stuff, like we get him involved so he gets to be a part of this process, and now he's excited to make and to eat whatever we make because he's making it, right? So this is, my wife made homemade sourdough cinnamon rolls last Christmas. This is the picture from last Christmas. Let me tell you what, if you've, I think the recipe, is there a recipe in there, guys? If it's not in there, we have it. And if you don't want to make it yourself, the lady we brought tonight, she makes these sourdough cinnamon rolls. And I'll tell you what, that's where we got the idea from. It's amazing. Talk to her. Make sure you talk to her. But this will change your life. If you get some of this, you will never go back, I promise you. But again, you can make things fun. And again, all the things we do over the holidays, all the fun things we make at home, like we do it as a family. So now here's the other thing. We talk about the holidays is time for family and friends to come together, right? This is a great opportunity for you to take the grandkids, to take your kids, and as a unit, do this together. Like all my best memories are growing up in the kitchen with my aunt, learning how to cook things and learning, like we would put music on and we would dance and we would cook and it'd be so much fun, so much laughter. And like, I think a lot of times we think it just has to be, hey, now, I mean, I'm gonna call this out. Now it's, the kids are gonna go play video games and then mom and dad are cooking, we're slaving over it, and then we go to the kitchen to eat and then they're on their phone while we're eating and no one's talking, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. We gotta fix this. The culture has to shift. Like, everybody comes together and this is how we connect and how we bond, right? And maybe it's because I'm Italian and we bond over food, but like, this is how we do it. And it's easy. So getting your kids or getting your family involved is a really good tactic to put this together. Okay, so here's a couple healthy swaps. So when you're looking at some, so it's so cool. So they're not here tonight, but they brought, some of our partners are the Wendell Schaefer Chocolates. And I told them, I said, hey, I need a healthy candy alternative for the kids. So they make something called the Holy Ghost bars. So they are chocolate bars, and instead of having like scary ghosts, these are the Holy Ghosts. So we have them here if you guys want to get some and try them out. We have the Holy Ghost bars. But again, things like that. If you're going to make stuffing on Thanksgiving, make it grain-free stuffing because the white processed refined grains is going to be inflammatory to your gut. Pumpkin spice lattes. There is a healthy recipe that we put inside this thing that's going to help you put that together. You can make your own pumpkin spice latte. The cinnamon rolls, we just showed you a picture of that. That's delicious. Again, I'll say that over and over again. Now, camera's out. Here is your secret code to all the goods.
Oh my gosh.
Be ready. Hurry. Just kidding. If you guys need help accessing that, my team can help you. They're fantastic at this. But this is going to be loads and loads and loads of stuff that's going to help you be the star of the party going over the next holiday season. You guys all got it? If you don't got it, we'll get it to you afterwards. We all have it. All right. Next, we have stress. Who's not stressed over the holidays? That's right. I know, right? Exactly. So here's the thing. Stress over the holidays, we got to hit this because I'm going to call it a reframe. Stress is going to be there. Like thinking that it's not going to be stressful is stressful. So like when you start looking at the stress of the holidays, you have to understand that how do you reframe this? And here's why this is so hard is because now that you guys all have your phone out, do me a favor, somebody who has their phone out, just so you guys know I'm not making this up. Somebody Google real quick, and I want you to Google most common day during the year for heart attack.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Just so you know I'm not making this up. Most common day for heart attack. What do you guys have?
I've heard of people having them on Thanksgiving Day.
That's a common one. The number one day. What does it say?
Monday's Monday.
December 25th.
December 25th.
6th and January 1st.
So Christmas Day is the number one day of heart attacks throughout the year. The second most common is the day after Christmas. The third most common is New Year's Day. Top 3 days of heart attacks. That's a problem.
Why?
So everything we just talked about leading up to the holidays, the amount of stress that goes on, the amount of toxic foods, the amount of overindulging in all the things, it hits a peak, okay? And on Christmas Day is typically when the peak hits. And this is when everything kind of implodes. And unfortunately, this is what people see, right? And we're gonna have more stuff to go over too, to kind of get to that point. But there's so many things that hit this like peak and everything falls apart. So when you think about stress, oh, go away.
And the third is New Year's Day.
Right. So when you think about this, when you look at the stress over the holidays, I mean, there's financial stress, right? Because we want to pay for gifts and we want to pay for parties and we want to make sure that we have a good time there. We want to go out to eat. There's also the stress of expectation. How many of you guys host parties and host holidays in your homes? There's this stress of hosting. That's every time that I would go to my aunt's house for Thanksgiving or Christmas, she is stressed to the max because she wants to make sure it's a good time for everybody, right? So the expectation of stress. In fact, I'm going to give you a little side thing. This is another writer downer for you guys, is frustration is just unmet expectations. The root of all frustration is unmet expectations. So how do you become less frustrated over the holidays or just frustrated period? Is set and have better managed expectations. That's a big difference, right? If my wife is expecting me to do something and that I don't do, she becomes frustrated. So if the expectation is not met, frustration happens. So the stress of frustration over the next holidays, that's a big one. The other thing is family. How many of you guys, when you get around family, it's almost worse, right? Like you can be honest. And this is where just, again, the stress, all these different things come around. And it's okay. I want you to know, like, maybe if you're the person tonight that needs to hear this, it's okay to say no. Like, think that in for a second. Like, it's okay to say no. Sometimes you get invited to so many things and you get asked to do so many things. Maybe you're the person that says yes to everything, that this season you got to say no to something, right? And that's okay. But like, set boundaries so that you and your family are going to be connecting and together for this holiday season. And it's okay if there's some things, if it's a soccer game that you got to say no to, if it's a party you got to say no to, like, you know what? Sometimes it has to happen. So make sure that we're doing that. So what do we do on the flip side? So this is what's so cool. I'm gonna tie this neurologically in a second. But when you think about managing stress and expectations, whenever I have a question, I go to my Bible. So Philippians 4:6-7. Do not be anxious about anything. How easy is that? Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer, petition, and thanksgiving, I want you to remember this for a second, right? By prayer and thanksgiving, present your request to God, and the peace of God transcends all understanding. How many of you guys have experienced peace in your life, right? It's almost hard to comprehend. What is the peace of God? What would that be like? That's a whole nother level. You guys with me? But when you put all of your anxiousness and all of your things towards Him, the peace of God is with you, and it transcends all your understanding, will guard your heart and guard your mind. So here's the thing. When I look at this, Scripture is very clear. It tells us, do not be anxious about anything, but give everything else to Him. Why is it that we consume it and we think that we need to hold all of it? You guys with me? Like, we do that, and we bear it all, and we're not told to do that. So when you start looking at this, we're told to give it this way. We're told that in every situation, with Thanksgiving, so here's why I told you to highlight that. So when you think about neurologically how your brain works, the same part of your brain that processes stress and anxiety is the same part that processes gratitude and thankfulness. You cannot be grateful and stressed at the same time. It's physiologically impossible. You cannot be stressed and anxious at the same time, right? You can't be in a thankful space and be overwhelmed and stressed at the same time. So here's the thing, whenever you get to a moment when you're feeling overwhelmed by stress and anxiety, what should you do? Go to thankfulness and gratefulness. Start going into a place of gratitude. Start practicing gratitude and prayer. And those are the things that you can literally neurologically shift your brain and your mind to start changing the hormones that your body produces, and you can put yourself into a whole different state right away. That's fantastic. And you can do it, guess what? It's free. You can do that whenever you want, wherever you want. Like, you have that power in your hands, okay? So this is what I love is like, it's always cool to see how scripture lines up with neurologically how your body was wired. That's a cool thing for me. I love seeing that. So when you go back, what I was writing in here is, I think this is like an everyday thing, but especially in the holiday season, if you're someone who becomes easily overwhelmed, maybe don't wake up and start your day with Instagram and TikTok. Maybe don't wake up and start your day with emails. Maybe wake up and start your day in gratitude and prayer, right? Maybe start the things that are going to start you in this peaceful place. Make that the first thing that you do. Someone once told me, can you give God 15? And I was like, what does that mean? He's like, the first 15 minutes of your day, can you give it to him? Right? And sometimes so many of us have a hard time, like the first thing we do is we want to get up and start going to the grind. And we got to start emails and social media. And like, that's the first thing your brain wants to go to, but it's the first place where you're going to get stressed. I don't know about you. Transparently speaking, I used to be one of the guys that I fall victim to the game of comparison. I look at my friends and I see the vacations they're taking their families on, and I instantly feel less joyful because I'm comparing myself to what they're doing. Who's been there, right? Like, you compare yourself to what everybody else is doing, what your friends have. And instead of being like fully happy in where you are in the moment, you're stuck being ticked off because you're thinking about everything you don't have. You guys follow me? So like, that whole thing, like, get rid of that first thing in the morning and just go to a place that's going to center you for the day. That's a great place to start, to center yourself for not getting into a place of stress and anxiety starting off the day. So strategies are get off TikTok. Second thing, carving out time for you. Like, so many times we think it's selfish to have me time. I think you have to have me time. I think you have to create boundaries for yourself, and in your day, you have to at least give yourself 30 minutes. Wherever you choose to put it, you have to do it. For me, it's right when I wake up, I get up intentionally very early because no one else is awake and the whole house is quiet. I can exercise, I can pray, I can stretch, I can do whatever the heck I want. But the whole house is quiet, and that's why I like it, right? So like, but carve out time that fills up your cup, whatever that might be. I don't know what that is for you, but like, think about whatever it is that truly fills your cup up. And if you started your day doing that, how much different would that be for you, right? It's like starting off your day with that. Where's my wife? If you're like my wife, last minute things stress her out to the max. If I told her, hey, tomorrow we're gonna go to this party, she would say, yeah, right. Like, has to be in the schedule. So if last minute things stress you out, create boundaries. Don't do last minute things, right? That's your no thing. And the last thing I'm gonna get back to this later. I'm gonna sneak it in now, but is creating the time for you. We talked about lack of time earlier. Here's what I'm gonna say. You have to create the boundary and say that the time is important. So everybody is making time. I think if you really look at your day and you look at your calendar, you're making time for love and friendships and family, and you're making time for those things, or you're making time for everything else in your life, but you're always making time for something. What I would encourage you to do is take a good reflection, look at your calendar and ask yourself, like, what am I making time for? In my day, I get the same amount of hours everybody else, like we all get the same amount of hours. Where are you giving your time to? And if it's not serving you, then I think you need to have a real reflection and change it. Be really intentional with where you give your time. Does that make sense? Be really, really mindful about that. Okay. Next, toxins, minimizing our toxic exposure. This is going to be the fun section. First one is candles. We love all our holiday scent candles and burning those things all over the house. This is not good. So, conventional candles that are made with paraffin wax. That paraffin wax is actually a component of petroleum, if you didn't know that. Petroleum comes from gasoline. You are scenting petroleum into your home and breathing all that stuff in. That is a toxin to the body. You want to eliminate lighting candles in your home. The other thing is, I think some candles are also release chemicals like formaldehyde into the air. So being very mindful of what you're trying to scent your home with. So a couple alternatives to that would be diffusing essential oils, right? Like essential oils are so easy. Like nothing's gonna burn down your house. Easy to diffuse really good scents throughout your home. If you don't have, or for whatever reason don't like essential oils, then what this is take like a well, you can use a crock pot, right? But take a pot of some kind and take like orange peels and cinnamon and clove and different things, and you can put that in and kind of like heat that up, and that creates a wonderful smell throughout your home. So there's a lot of ways to do it naturally where you don't have to rely on a lot of chemicals from candles. So can we if you go home, just look at your candles, and if they have paraffin wax, then throw it in the trash for me. Find a friend you don't like and give it to them as a gift. That's your white elephant gift. All right. You guys ready to get rowdy?
Yep.
Flu shot. It is my intention that if wherever you stand, after tonight, you will never get a flu shot ever again. I'm going to come out and say it right like that. Here's the thing. When it comes to the flu shot, are they safe and effective? I'm going to tell you no, they're not. So when you look this is right off CDC's website, they talk about side effects of flu shot. So the two things that come up, which I'm going to dive in more in a second, something called Guillain-Barré syndrome, and then permanent shoulder injuries. The reason I snipped this one specifically, as I was getting ready for tonight, I was asking lots of patients, and I asked them, hey, have you ever had an adverse reaction to a flu shot? And one of my patients, she's not here tonight, one of my patients said, yeah, I lost full ability of my shoulder. My whole shoulder and arm went paralyzed after I got my flu shot. And I was like, what happened? I went to the doctor and they said, unrelated. I go, interesting. Our new doctor, Dr. Olivia, if you've met her, she's wonderful. We were talking about this. Guillain-Barré syndrome, if you don't know what that is, it's an immune response that your immune system attacks your peripheral nervous system, which is your arms and legs. She was telling us that her uncle got a flu shot, got Guillain-Barré syndrome, and fully became paralyzed, lost feeling of his arms and legs, was in a wheelchair for almost a year. There are real side effects to this, right? I would rather have a stuffy nose for a week, personally. So you start looking at what this is. Now, I pulled this right off of the CDC. Intentionally, this is right off the CDC website for you guys to see this. So, I'm going to pull this in. What they recommend that, CDC recommends that everyone 6 months of age and older receive a flu vaccine every single year. So a baby 6 months of age should go in and get a flu shot, and then should continue getting a flu shot every single year afterwards. I think that's absurd. To have a kid start that early getting a flu shot is insane. I'm gonna show you why in a second. Then we go in here and we say, can you get the flu from the flu shot? No. How many of you guys have gotten the flu shot and then gotten the flu like the next week? Almost everybody. Then if you go down here and you say, what are some side effects of the flu shot? Soreness, redness, swelling swelling from the shot, headache, fever, nausea, muscle aches. What symptoms do you get when you get the flu? What does that sound like to you guys? Common side effects of the flu shot are symptoms of the flu. But no, you cannot get it from the flu shot. Then you start going down, flu shot, like other injections, can occasionally cause fainting. That's lovely. And then he goes back down to Guillain-Barré syndrome again. So again, when you start looking at it, pros and cons, right? You start like most people are going to get this. And here's the insanity. If you guys know this, there are thousands of strands of the flu every year. It is a Russian roulette of what they choose and what you're going to get. You have no idea what strand you're getting. You have no idea. Like, it's not like they're saying, I know exactly what strand the flu shot is this year, and you're going to get that one. It could be a shot in the dark, right? You have no idea. So again, that's a red flag to me. There's so many red flags here. Now, with any vaccine, if you talk to my wife and I or my team, and we go into any vaccination, this is all childhood vaccines, flu shots, my thing always, you should know exactly what is going into your body. So when I talk to people and I say, hey, how do you feel about, food going in your body? And they go, wow, I'm very, very intentional with the food that goes in my body. I go, you know exactly what's going in, right? And they go, yes. I go, do you get your flu shot? They go, of course. And I said, what's in your flu shot? No idea. You're injecting something in your bloodstream that you have no idea what's in it. So we're going to talk about that tonight. What's in the flu shot? So flu shot has preservatives in it. So preservatives, where are we? Okay, preservatives are things like thimerosal. Thimerosal is a neurotoxin. What do we say neurotoxins do? Pass the blood-brain barrier, attach onto nerve tissue in the brain, and cause damage to your brain. Thimerosal is a neurotoxin. Thimerosal also comes from mercury compounds. You can know that putting mercury in your body is also not a good idea, right? So thimerosal, not a good thing to put in your body. Then we have things like stabilizers. Stabilizers, again, this is coming straight from their website, are MSG. They're telling you that they're putting MSG as a stabilizer inside the vaccine. If I told you that I put MSG into your pecan bar, would you eat it? No, but they put it inside your vaccine. Okay, next. Antibiotics. We also talked about antibiotics already. We said antibiotics going into your gut do what? Destroy your gut. So now you're suppressing your immune system. So something that you're putting in your body is now suppressing your immune system. Then we have something called polysorbate 80. It's an emulsifier. Polysorbate 80, I did some research, is directly linked to dysbiosis, which we talked about was a fancy word for leaky gut. All this. Then we have formaldehyde. What do you put in a dead body to make it go stiff? Formaldehyde. Formaldehyde, I dug deeper, is also a neurotoxin that has links to behavior effects, memory loss, and learning disabilities when you put formaldehyde in the body. Here's the thing, guys. Like, when you look at this, obviously I have very strong feelings towards this shot. And I think that when you start looking at this, you got to weigh out pros and cons. What's the pro, what's the con for this? And there's so many negative things that this is going to do when we put this in our bodies versus, like, and I'm not going to say just get the flu. I'm going to say focus on your host. Focus on strengthening your host. That's where you want to put your energy. So all things we're talking about tonight is going to strengthen your host so that you don't have to sit there in fear and get it. Like that. That's not a preventative approach. As much as they want to tell you that, it's not a preventative approach, right? So immunity bundle. What do we do? So people ask me all the time. They say, Dr. Mike, you're face to face with tons of sick people all the time, and you don't really get sick. What do you do over the holiday season? And I got that question a lot. So this is like, I just put together a bundle of all the things that I take. And we put this together for you guys. So if you want to know exactly what me and my team and my wife, what do we take for our immune system over the next few months, like this is going to be my game plan over the next 3 to 5 months to support my immune system. So I'm going to walk through some of the cool things that this has in it. So the first one is I Am Support. This is a really neat one. In this one supplement, you have elderberry, which is a powerful immune booster, and it's known to shorten the duration of sickness if you do get sick. Then it has echinacea, also something that can decrease your overall immune response if you get sick. There is 5 medicinal mushrooms in there that are designed to support the body's immune system. Then we look at something called Pronac. Pronac, anybody ring a bell? Pronac? This became really popular when COVID hit. In fact, it was so popular as a respiratory support that the FDA took it off the shelves. It was helping so many people the FDA made it hard to get. Doesn't that sound weird? So luckily, we have ties with really good companies, so we have access to Pronac. So Pronac, NAC is the precursor to something called glutathione in the body. Glutathione is the body's #1 antioxidant, like immune booster, right? Pronac is the precursor to that. It helps produce that in the body. Also been proven to help minimize the spike protein creation in the body. Pronac is also a respiratory support. I mean, it's a great detoxifier. Pronac is a really powerful supplement. This is a big one. Then we have zinc in there. Zinc is known to break down the proteins in viruses, to break down viruses so that your body doesn't get sick as easy. That's a big one. Here's why I like ours though. Ours is a chelated form. Chelated means it's better digestible or easier to absorb in your body, so your body will take it in easier. There's zinc. Vitamin D. Everyone kind of knows vitamin D is a good immune support in the body, but when you look at, I had a patient one time who was taking vitamin D from Target and went and got her blood levels tested and she had no vitamin D. She's like, I don't get it. I take vitamin D. I'm like, the source of your vitamins matters. So she switched to our vitamin D. 6 months later, numbers are back to normal through the roof, right? Because the concentration matters. Like where you're getting it matters. So the vitamin D that we have is also connected with probiotics. If you put probiotics with vitamin D, what they find is that you have a better absorption rate and your body uses vitamin D better. That's why ours has probiotics. And then we have vitamin C. We all kind of know, right? When you're sick, get vitamin C. Problem is that when you're sick, when I was a kid, they gave me Tropicana orange juice. Not even oranges in Tropicana. But when you look at the vitamin C we have, the reason why it's so good, number one, vitamin C is a very powerful antioxidant, but it has quercetin in it. Quercetin, you put that inside there, and that's a very synergistic response to help absorb and make it more readily usable inside your body. So again, this vitamin C is almost acts stronger and better because your body can use it more efficiently. So here's the idea. This is literally what I'm going to be doing over the next 4 to 5 months. My team, same thing. My wife, like this is kind of our game plan. If you're going to take something instead of having synthetic things in, I recommend like you take this. So what we did is I put together, I think we have 12 pre-done bundles that look like this. So we have 12 of them here. Obviously, the first 12 people that go grab them, you can grab them. Here's my recommendation. I'm going to be doing this bundle pretty much once a month, right? It's a 1 month supply. So I'm doing this once a month for the next 5 months because this is like the holiday sick season. So I'm going to take care of myself for that season proactively. Here's what I recommend to you guys. Tonight, we're doing 15% off because you guys are here. So if you want to take advantage of the bundle and the discount, I recommend you pick up a couple of bundles. Like, get yourself ready for the next 3 months. Like, be ready, you know what I mean? Like, getting it for October isn't going to save you for November, December, January. So like grab a couple bundles while it's on sale. Make it easy. Questions on that? Okay. Next, we're going to run through this guy. Lack of time, lack of sleep, lack of sun exposure. We talked about time. Like make time for yourself. We talk about sleep. This is where we all have a lack of sleep. We're not sleeping because we're out late at events. We're out late partying. We're up early, like cooking and doing things. Like this is one of those things where if you can, sleeping is the one time your body's going to recover. I recommend like keeping your sleep schedule as strong as you can. This is going to be a very, very important one, is managing your sleep when you're during this next season. And sun exposure. Here's my, you guys ready for this one? Boom, booty buns. How do I keep my kids full of vitamin D? I keep them naked over the winter. This is true. It's very rare to come to my house and have my kids have clothes on. But again, this is the thing, is like you want your kids to have a good immune system. Like when I was a kid, we were out drinking out of the hose in the backyard and running around in the dirt, right? Like the other day, forgive me, I saw she was out here chewing on one of the rocks. And I was like, that's kind of good for her, right? That should be all right. But like you think about how do we get their immune system strong? Like do stuff that we did when we were kids. Like we got to get them back to that stuff. Get them out of the house. Now that it's nice, out of the house. Like they're not allowed inside during the winter season, you know? And then on my break, sometimes I don't have a lot of time to exercise. So how do I maximize my time with my kid? I go on a bike ride and get outside with him. Even if it's a 15-minute bike ride, he loves it. and I get time with him. So like, even if you're gonna go for a 15-minute walk with your family, get outside in the sunshine, do, again, everything you're gonna see me, do things together. Find creative ways to do exercise and do sunshine with your family together. It's gonna be so much more beneficial. So, Santa, this is what we need. On the treadmill, so funny. But getting creative with exercise. So I'm gonna show you how my family gets creative as a unit during the holiday season. This was when my son was little. So again, when I talk about us doing this together, this is literally what we do. We get out together and he doesn't get to skimp out on it. Everybody exercises together and we make it fun. Like he has a blast when he gets to go out and exercise with daddy. Like he doesn't sit inside and watch video games while daddy exercises. Like as a unit, we get out and we do this together. And now if you were to ask him, like he doesn't know anything different because that's what he's been raised in. That's all he knows. When he wakes up, the only thing my kid knows is, hey, we're gonna go read a Bible story, then we're gonna go drink a smoothie, we're gonna go work out. Like, that's the plan, you know what I mean? So when you start looking at this, get creative with your family with ways that you guys can exercise. Make it fun. Boom. All right, and we're gonna finish this off with chiropractic. This is so good. This is so good. Everyone say, this is so good. Okay, so if we're gonna define healthy for the holidays, the number one thing we have to do first is redefine what it means to be healthy. Because again, this is a big problem that I think a lot of us fall into, is defining what health is. So when you look at health, my best definition that I have found for knowing that you're healthy is when it's your body's ability to adapt and respond to its environment. That is when you're healthy. You are a healthy body when you can adapt and respond to whatever is in your environment. Does that make sense? So when you start looking at this, here's why I talk about chiropractic care. The purpose of your chiropractic care, the purpose of you getting adjusted, is to help your nervous system become stronger so that you can adapt and respond to your environment. That is what your nervous system does. When you have stress coming in, physical stress, chemical stress, emotional stress, all of those stressors are regulated by your nervous system. That's what happens when you get an adjustment. You strengthen the body's ability to adapt to its surroundings. So here's what I'm going to recommend. This is the season where everybody says, it's getting really busy, Dr. Mike. I got to stop exercising. I got to stop getting adjusted. I got to stop doing all my healthy habits. And this is why we have the 6th season. You guys with me? Because we adopt these unhealthy habits and now we do this. Here's what I'm going to tell you guys. This is, if you've ever asked me this in the past, here's when it comes to your frequency of care in the office, here's what I'm going to tell you, is that the frequency of care depends on the amount of stress in your life. In the holiday season, if you have more stress going on in your life and you stop getting adjusted and you stop exercising and you stop eating healthy and you stop getting outside, do you guys see the problem that happens here? This is when your health falls apart and you get sick. How do we make sure that we keep that in balance? If my stress goes up, guess what I do over here? Everything tightens up. Everything gets dialed in. My nutrition gets dialed in. I get more adjustments, not less. I make sure I get extra time outside. Like everything has to be in balance. If I got the devil coming after me this hard, guess what? I'm going to go to God this hard. Like you got to make sure that this stays in balance. So whatever is coming over here, you got to match it, if not get better on this side. Does that make sense there? So this is how we got to strategize. And again, I say it that way because it's different for everybody in the room. So you got to be able to discern what does that look like with how your body is responding. Amen? Okay. It died on me. It's okay. I don't need it. So, most of you guys, all you guys, almost all you guys are patients in the office. So when you look at this, here's what's actually happening. When you get an adjustment, you guys see the black nerve that's going to everything in the body? This black nerve is called your vagus nerve. This is the parasympathetic nerve in the body. This is the nerve that when you get an adjustment, that nerve lights up and that nerve sends relaxed, healing signals to every part of the body. This is the, you guys heard like the fight or flight in the system or the rest and digest. Most of us, when you're stressed, you live in fight or flight. What this is doing, this is the rest and digest. So when you get an adjustment, it puts you into rest and digest so that your body can now be in healing mode. You want to be in healing mode during the holiday season when there's more stress coming at you. So far, so good? I'm going to go quick. So here's what this looks like. When you get, your spine should be in good alignment. When you are subluxated, A lot of you guys don't know what that word is. It makes me sad. Subluxated is when the spine gets shifted out of alignment and it starts pinching off pressure in the nerve. This is why we did a nerve scan on you when you first came in, is because we want to identify where are those nerves being pinched, what's going on inside here. And when we identify this stuff, if your nerve is being pinched, if that nerve is going to your digestive tract and that nerve is pinched and your body isn't able to function properly in that area, that's a problem. This is why regular chiropractic care helps your body function better throughout this next season. So this is why that's important. One more time, if you're a guest, raise your hand. Like if you're not a patient here, everyone's a patient. Okay, so here's the idea. When you look at a spine, if you've never seen an x-ray, this was a patient of ours, and the nerves down here in the low back, these are the nerves that go out to your digestive tract. This patient coming in, do you see how her spine is bent, pinching the nerves that go to her digestive tract? Can you see that here? That's a problem. She was constantly sick, constantly had lower back pain. So we started getting her adjusted, and I want to show you guys, this is really cool. This is 6 months later. Now she's here. Balanced pelvis, balanced spine, no more digestive issues, very rarely ever sick, and her back doesn't hurt. Like, there's a difference when you can go to the source that's controlling your body. This is where we want to get to, is get to the source that controls and regulates the function, control and fix that, and then everything else becomes good from there. Does that make sense? This is why we always start with the spine. This is why no matter what's going on, I say start with the spine and then let's fix all the other stuff. Let's go with your nutrition and doing all that stuff. Because the problem is that organic broccoli coming in is good, but if your nervous system is damaged and you can't process the broccoli that you're eating, it doesn't really matter anyway. So you gotta make sure the nervous system is regulated, okay? All you guys here, isn't she cute? So I put her up here because when she first came in the office, this little girl, RSV, chronic sickness all the time. And the mom constantly had her on antibiotics, ear infections, you name it. And we started getting her adjusted. And this little girl has not been sick one day since she's been under chiropractic care. This is the difference. Like, she's able to go and be a kid and enjoy the holidays now, right? Because she's not chronically dealing with this stuff. And that's like, the reason I put this up here is a lot of you guys, if you're here tonight, obviously this doesn't apply to you. But I know that you have people that are chronically sick at work next to you, that are chronically sick at church next to you, that are chronically sick at the gym next to you. Like, there are people out there that aren't listening to what you guys heard tonight. Does that make sense? There are people out there that probably are in your inner circle who they're being fed the other stuff. They're being told the other stuff, and their holidays are going to look a lot different. Here's my prayer, is if you guys over this next season can be missionaries for them and say, hey, there's a better way. You don't have to keep going out and being sick, and you don't have to keep getting, antibiotics every single time. Like, help them become better and help them have a better holiday season. So this seminar is for you, but it's also a seminar for people that you know that need it. Like, what is that Spider-Man quote? With greater knowledge comes greater responsibility. That's right. With great power. Tonight, it's great knowledge, right? Now comes great responsibility. Now it's making sure we help those around us. Is that fair? Last thing I'm going to say, last slide, Friendsgiving. So if you really want to put the icing on the cake of how to make a ton of healthy, delicious recipes, we're doing a Friendsgiving potluck here in the office. So on the 9th, there's going to be sign-up sheets back there. If you want to be a part of this, I need to make sure that you guys put your name down because we have limited spots. This fills up every single year, and it's so fun. And we have a bunch of people in here. Everybody makes the most delicious recipes that are Max Living approved so that you know everything you're going to eat that night is like the stuff you had earlier, right? It's going to be all things like that. So that night, this is a time of fellowship. This is a time of connecting. This is a time of making sure that you can educate yourself on good, healthy recipes to feed yourself. This is a time to practice your recipe on everybody else, right? And gather other things. Like, oh my God, that was delicious. Snap that recipe. I'm going to make that for Thanksgiving, right? This is what people do. So that's what we're doing on the 9th to make sure we're doing it earlier. So if that's what you want to, if you want to come be a part of that, please get signed up for that. Other than that, Morgan is back there with the immunity bundles. grab your bundle. Make sure you grab some sourdough. This is what got us hooked on the sourdough, is that stuff right there, right? So make sure you guys go see the sourdough. Other than that, I pray that this is helpful, and I pray that you apply these things. Remember, information without application is just good information. So make sure that you take this. When I see you on your next visit, I'm going to ask you, what are you applying? Make sure that we take this and put it into application. Amen?
Amen.
All right, guys, we're done.
Thank you.
Can I get 2 minutes of your time? Spending. God is so good
Yeah.
at times. But in the